East Idaho Newsmakers is brought to you by the Bank of Commerce, your bank of a lifetime.
This is East Idaho Newsmakers with Nate Eaton.
Thanks for joining us today. We are talking with Michelle Holt. She works at the College of Eastern Idaho. I'm going to have her say her title.
I'm the Division Manager for Workforce Training and Community Education.
All right, just about 10 words in there, but we are glad Michelle is here. You may recognize her. She served several years with the Idaho Falls Chamber of Commerce, Greater Idaho Falls Area Chamber of Commerce,
Correct.
I should say. And she's actively involved in the community. I want to start at the beginning, Michelle. Were you born and raised here in Idaho Falls?
I was not, actually. My family was originally from Arco, from Eastern Idaho. My mom grew up there. I'm from a third generation INL family. My grandpa actually worked out at the INL in the 50s. And my father came to Idaho with the Navy to do his nuclear training at the site, met a local girl, married her, traveled around the country while he was in the military, and so I actually lived in various places until about middle school. And when my dad retired, they said, you know what, we should move back to Arco. That'd be a great place to raise kids. And so we moved there the summer before I started the 7th grade. So I went to junior high and high school in Arco. And then when I graduated, I moved to Boise to start college and ended up starting my career there. And so I spent 15 years in the Boise Valley before we came back to Eastern Idaho in 2005.
Did you ever think when you left here that you'd be back, or were you one of those that wanted to come back?
You know, I really loved the Boise Valley. You know, there's so much activity and things going on, and that was kind of where my career roots had started. I loved Eastern Idaho, but at the same time, coming from especially a very rural community, you wanted to get out and kind of spread your wings a little bit. But my husband, who grew up in Arco as well, you know, he was always kind of a small town guy, and so at that stage in our life, you know, he said, I really think I'd like to go back to Eastern Idaho. And so I said, okay, well, if you can find a career that suits you to be able to do that, then I'll go. I'm a bloom where you're planted person. And so in 2005, we came back. We moved back to Arco. And I actually started working for Lost River Economic Development, doing rural economic development for Butte and South Custer counties. And so I did that for almost 10 years.
Now, people hear economic development, and that sounds like a fancy term, but what does an economic developer do? What is your role? What was your role in that position?
So rural economic development is a little bit different than what you see in municipal communities. If you look at economic development with the city of Idaho Falls already, you know, they're working at a much higher level dealing with corporate relocation and expansion. So they're working through municipal channels, identifying funding sources, really doing a lot of study of industry clusters and how can they help grow the economy in their city or region. Rural economic development is a little bit different because you're dealing with communities that generally do not have full-time elected officials. Most of them are employed in other full-time jobs, so you end up being a quasi-spokesperson for your community or your county on issues because you're available to do that. You're dealing with multiple communities and cities, so for me it was 2 counties and 4 cities working on projects. You end up doing supporting municipal projects, maybe because you're administering a grant or a project. You end up writing grants for local foundations because a school program needs funding to buy sewing machines for the home ec class, and so you work a lot more with individual entrepreneurs, where in larger cities they're a little more readily accessible to programs like the Small Business Development Center and here the Regional Development Alliance. There you're kind of the conduit to resources, and truly at its base, that's what economic development is you are a conduit between business and resources to spur growth. It's just in rural communities, what is considered growth looks a little bit different than what you find in a larger community.
And so it's more than just trying to get new business to town.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
doing a lot more.
Yeah.
So you do that out in Arco for a couple years. And
Almost 10 years.
10 years. And then what brings you to Idaho Falls?
So at that point, we had family over in Arco that had passed away or moved away. We didn't have any family left in the area. Our oldest daughter just graduated from high school. Our next younger kids were just getting ready to start middle school. And so it was more that timing. If you're going to make a life change, now is a good time to do that. My husband was employed out at the site, and so we could really live anywhere in the region. But again, it was that same kind of idea. Funding for my economic development position was going to be changing, and the job was going to be cut back to a part-time position. It's like, okay, if I'm going to continue to grow, we really need to be on the other side of the desert for us, in the Idaho Falls area to look for new opportunities. And so we really kind of let out in faith a little bit. We put our house on the market in Arco. We bought a place on this side of the desert. And I said, okay, now I've got to find a job. And coincidentally, that was when the Chamber's position opened up. So we moved to Eastern Idaho the end of May, and I started with the Chamber the end of June.
Wow.
So the planets aligned, and it ended up being such a great opportunity.
And you were with the Chamber about 2 years?
I was actually with the Chamber almost 4.
4, okay.
Almost 4. And that was such a wonderful opportunity. When I had worked in Boise and was starting to build my career over there, I was actively involved in the Boise Metro Chamber. At one point, I served on their board of directors representing nonprofits. I had been a chamber, the equivalent to Idaho Falls' ambassadors. So visiting businesses, served on the military affairs committee, went through their leadership program, and had been actively involved for about 10 years. So when I came over here and looked at our chamber, I had a passion for how chambers could help, not only help businesses, but help individuals grow their network and grow as professionals. So I was really excited to have the chance to take that experience, take my economic development experience and working with individual businesses and resources, and to be able to work with the businesses in our region.
What's the main thing, or one or two of the main things you learned in that role?
The main thing that I learned, I think it was not so much what I learned, but what I reinforced, and that's the power of network. Network has become such a, it is cliche. It's almost a buzzword, but at the base of all things, that's where business happens. That's where professional growth happens. It's about the people you meet and connect with. And so especially if you're in a business doing business to business kinds of sales and marketing, at its fundamental base, people want to do business with people they know and people they like. And as our community gets, our business community gets more global, and we start to do more online business, and we're working on a much grander scale, I think people actually still crave those opportunities to have personal connections. And so that's one of the things that I just saw reinforced during my time at the Chamber, is that no matter how big we get, no matter how technological we get, we still crave those opportunities for connections with people.
And you got to mingle with a lot of people, a lot of businesses, large and small.
We did. We absolutely did. We had over 600 member businesses representing over 27,000 employees. And so we got to work with all kinds of industries, all levels of employees. And it was really exciting to be able to be a part of the decisions that were changing our community, to be able to go with the city of Idaho Falls and representatives from Ammon and the INL and go advocate for funding in Washington, D.C. to support the INL, or then another day be working with the Department of Commerce or the Department of Labor on programs to make things available for businesses, or then doing special events that just add to the culture and fabric of our community, or putting on events like the 4th of July Parade or the Liberty Festival, golf tournaments. So we got to do some fun, just community things. And then on top of that, we ran the Convention and Visitors Bureau as well. So then really getting involved in the tourism aspects of what happens in our region and how that affects what happens. So it was exciting. You know, no 2 days were the same, and we really got to be involved in a lot of fun things.
That's great. Then another opportunity came along, and we'll talk about that when we come back. We'll take a quick break. The cool things that you're doing now, not at iTech, at the College of Eastern Idaho. CEI, still getting used to that. We'll be back.
At the Bank of Commerce, we understand the hard work, determination, and sacrifice it takes to run a successful business. That's why we're here every step of the way to help make your dreams come true. The Bank of Commerce, your bank of a lifetime.
Welcome back. We're talking with Michelle Holt today. She is working at the College of Eastern Idaho and doing some really cool things as far as workforce training is concerned with people in the community. Before the break, we talked about how you left the chamber to move over to, at the time, iTech. You didn't.
Correct.
No one knew if it was going to becoming a community college.
Right, that
so
is correct.
You start in your role, and has that role changed at all with the transition of the school?
My role really hasn't changed with the transition other than just grown because of the increased awareness of what we do at the college. So workforce training and community education really encompasses, most simply, the non-credit programs at College of Eastern Idaho, or then iTech. So our programs do not contribute toward a degree or a professional technical certificate program, so they are non-credit. What they are is community education is exactly what you would think it would be. It's those adult enrichment opportunities that we provide to the community. So you want to learn sign language, or you want to do an art activity, or summer camp programs to teach STEM skills to kids. Those are community ed programs. So in addition to those, we have what we would call open enrollment workforce training programs. So those are classes that anyone can come and enroll to be a part of. So you want to be an EMT, you want to be an apprentice for plumbing, electrical, HVAC, you want to be a CNA, you need to learn skills like CPR or medic first aid, maybe you need some OSHA compliance training, those kinds of activities, grant writing skills, software programs. Those classes we offer in our catalog twice a year.
I don't know if a lot of people know that those classes are offered. I got the catalog and went through, and there's, like Photoshop.
Yeah.
Editing photos on your computer, and I think is there cooking?
Yes.
Cooking classes.
We have a whole series of cooking classes.
And they're relatively affordable. They're not expensive, and it's not all time consuming.
That is correct. So for us, it's about a focus to help people with skills attainment and that ultimately either lead to or help grow toward jobs. I mean, at its base, that's what we're doing, is helping people connect with jobs, helping grow the workforce by making sure that our area employers can get to skilled employees. And so sometimes skilled employees mean more than just having a degree. It may be an industry valued credential of some kind. There's lots of talk happening in the workforce arena now about credentials, certifications, competency-based training, because it's less about did you achieve the degree, but an employer wants that reassurance that when I hire someone, they can do the job that I need them to do. They have the right skills. Or maybe they've got incumbent workers that came in at a certain level and they need to be able to continue to grow. So it's more of that professional development look at workforce training. So we're offering those courses. And then a whole other arm that we do that I think most people are not aware of is contract training. And so we will contract directly with an employer to provide training to help them grow their workforce or help them ensure that their workforce has the skills that they need. And that training can look like anything. So instead of, here's the catalog of what we're offering, it's really a one-on-one conversation with a regional employer to say, what are the skills gaps in your workforce and how can we help you bridge that? And that can be done on an individual employee basis, groups of employees. It can be a one-time training. It can be ongoing training. It could be on our campus. It could be in their facility. It really just depends on what their needs are. So again, we're back to the role of being the conduit between a need and an available resource. And so that's exciting because then we can come in and just say, what do you need and how do we help you get there?
Yeah, it is. There's so many opportunities that, like you said, I just think people are not aware. They just don't know. And is that mainly what your role is, kind of supervising all of that?
Yeah, so the workforce training division at the college really has 4 components. The community education piece, the contract training piece, open enrollment workforce training. And then we have 2 additional arms there. One is that we have a major contract with INL where we provide environmental safety and health training for their employees. And we train about 6,000 of their employees a year in recertifications around environmental safety and health. And so we have a division that just works on that contract for them. And then additionally, we also have the Fire Service Technologies program for the state of Idaho. FST, we call it. They provide training, testing, and certification for Idaho's firefighters. So there are approximately 250 fire departments across the state, and I would say less than 10 of those are what we would call career fire departments. The rest of those are some combination of career firefighters and volunteers or completely volunteer fire departments. So this division works with those individual departments to ensure that their folks are getting access to training, are offered opportunities for testing and certification for their particular careers. And so we have another group of employees that run and administer that program as well.
Where do you foresee the College of Eastern Idaho in 5-10 years?
It is so hard to picture what that's going to look like because the growth opportunities are tremendous. The community response to the transition to CEI emergence as a community college has been great. There are over 1,000 full-time students registered in this spring semester. There's no way yet to even project what the enrollment for credit programs is going to be this fall. But the more the students come, the more we expand and add programs. I think it's really going to be an asset for this region as we look at how do we transition this idea of K to career. How are we reaching down to work with the K-12 schools in order to help bring students on to whatever the path they go on for post-secondary education? Is it a traditional associate's degree leading to a 4-year bachelor's and on to higher level education? Is it career technical education? Is it going straight to the workforce via some other workforce training program? What does that look like? And then how that impacts what happens with the universities. You know, the universities then can to some degree lessen their focus on those 1 and 2 year 100 level courses because the community colleges and the high schools are handling those to a greater degree and really focus on those 3rd and 4th year master's doctorate related programs. And so it makes the whole education landscape of the region much more robust than it was before.
Think it'll ever be a university?
You know, I don't know. You know, community colleges have a really unique mission and function. And I feel like the university role in our area of the state is well served between University of Idaho, ISU, BYUI, extension programs from other universities. I really think that that role is being met. But community college has a really unique mission. So I would assume that we will probably stay in our lane for the foreseeable future.
Well, there's a lot going on in your lane.
There really is. You know, I think the one statistic that's exciting for me when we look at the workforce training and community education is that, you know, as I mentioned, we've got 1,000 full-time students with CEI right now. In workforce training, last year we interacted with 17,000 learners. which is huge. Of course, the difference is when you've got a full-time student, they are attending school full-time. Our learners, the average interaction time we have is about 2 hours, because it's short-term, just-in-time training to meet the needs of workforce.
Well, like I said earlier, there's a lot going on. There's a lot that you can go online and learn about. Check your mail for the catalog, because some of these classes are pretty cool. There we go. And I imagine they could stop by the college and pick one up if they need one. Or
absolutely.
Reach out to Michelle directly.
Absolutely.
Michelle Holt, thanks so much for coming in and talking with us today on East Idaho Newsmakers. For more information about the College of Eastern Idaho, we will include a link below, and we hope you have a good week.
East Idaho Newsmakers is brought to you by the Bank of Commerce, your bank of a lifetime.